It looks like you can hear me. I've gotten a little bit of response out of you on the technology side. I think all of you know me. My name is Brandy. I'm a member of the practice management team, and today's class is on the collaborative learning series, Switch It Up Meeting After Meeting. We'll be talking about the different meeting types. So let's get started. One last quick reminder, I see there's a couple of you who still haven't entered your audio pin. I don't want to call you out by name, but I will if I need to, because I'm going to want to say hi to you in just a few minutes. So go ahead and enter that if you can. If you can't find it, it should be in the control panel of your webinar screen. All right. So here's a quick outline of what we're going to talk about today. I'll give you a brief introduction of one another and of myself. We'll talk about our objectives. We'll work through what exactly is a focused meeting. What are the meeting types that we recommend as a best practice? And there'll be a little bit of group participation and some notes before we send you on your way for the rest of the afternoon. As I said, I'm Brandy Harvey, member of the practice management team. You'll see there's a little map next to my picture here. If you've signed up in the last 24 hours, your color may not be correct, but you'll be on the map one way or another. The red ones are practice management clients, and those in yellow are attendees that had registered as of yesterday, I believe. Just to give you a sense for where everybody is and how we're spread out through the country today. So I'd like to go around and have you introduce yourself and tell me a little bit about your position in the practice that you're working in. So I'm going to unmute everybody's lines for a moment and ask you to say hello. I can call on you if that'd make it easier so that you know you're not going to end up speaking over someone.
Muted.
Let me see if it'll let me unmute you. Kelly, would you like to say hello from Texas?
Sure. Kelly Albrock. I'm in Fredericksburg, Texas. We have 3 office locations: San Antonio, Fredericksburg, and Kerrville. What else did you want?
What do you do for the practice?
Oh, I am client service and financial planning assistant and paperwork.
Jane of all trades in that office, aren't you?
I'm kind of all over.
All right. Thank you. Thanks for joining us today, Kelly.
All right. Thank you.
Hey, Marlo. Would you like to say hello?
Hi, Brandy. How are you?
I'm good.
Good. Sorry I'm late. I had a meeting, so
no worries.
I'm here now.
Can you share with everybody where you're at and what your position is in the practice you work for?
Yep, I'm in Port Huron, Michigan, and I am a client service manager for Jeff Wallace.
Thank you, ma'am.
Mm-hmm.
Megan out in California. Oh, it looks like maybe you haven't entered your audio pin, so I'll wait and come back to you. Sharissa, I should have let you say hello when I was saying hi to Kelly. Can you share where you are and what you do?
I am the client service coordinator, and of course I'm here in Fredericksburg, Texas with Kelly.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Ellen, hi.
Good afternoon. How are you?
I'm well. Welcome.
Thank you.
Can you share with everybody where you're at and what you do for the practice you work in?
I am in Troy, Michigan, and I don't do anything for the practice I work with. No, I I wear many hats, but mostly I am the operations/office manager for the practice.
Hi, Heidi.
Hi, Brandy. I am Heidi Wampler, and I work for Ryan Romines, and we are out in San Rafael, California, just a bit outside of California, and out of San Francisco. And I am the admin assistant to Ryan, and we currently have a staff. We have just increased our staff by twofold, so we have myself, my advisor, and another assistant, and then a scheduler.
Is Megan sitting with you today? Can she say hello?
No, I am working remotely from home, so she's at the office.
I will come back and grab her in a moment. Thanks for saying hi.
Okay. Hi.
Kaylin in Florida. Could you say hello to everybody?
Hi, I'm Kaylin. I'm in Lakeland, Florida, and I'm the Client Services Coordinator.
Thank you. Okay, Megan, I came back to you.
Hello, my name is Megan Biagini, and I am assistant to Heidi Wampler and Ryan Romines out in San Rafael.
Thank you. And Sarah?
Hi, I'm Sarah Leffler. I'm the Client Service Manager for Corey Neesmith out in Richmond, Virginia.
Perfect. Thank you and welcome. All right. So it doesn't help if we don't give you an opportunity to connect with one another. So I like to make sure everybody knows kind of who's working in a similar role throughout the country. So if you need to reach out to anybody or you would like to, either do so directly or feel free to let me know afterward and I can connect you with that person if there's somebody you'd like to work together on something with in a similar or a different role. That's part of the purpose of the Collaborative Learning Series. So I've remuted the lines just to make sure that we don't have any background noise or if anybody inadvertently puts us on hold or anything, we don't end up with any hold music. So please be sure to use the raise your hand feature. If you want to add anything at any time, we're going to be watching for that, or feel free to use the question box. Peggy's here with me helping me monitor those to make sure I don't miss anything. If you've got something to add or a question, if you'd like to stop me as I'm moving along to clarify a point, that's a great way to do that. All of you have worked with me in one capacity or another, so you know I tend to get excited about this stuff and may move a little bit quickly. So if you need me to slow down or go back and clarify something, please let me know. All right, what are we trying to accomplish today? I want to help you understand the differences between the meeting types and how to use them well. Show you how that can simplify some of the steps in meeting prep, and define how those focused meetings will enable you to better serve your clients in a variety of ways. So what is a focused meeting? A focused meeting is a meeting with defined goals and an agenda. It gives you a way to have a repeatable structure for meetings and predictability in the scheduling. It allows for a deeper dive into the specific subjects that need to be covered periodically throughout the year with your clients, and prevents covering everything in every meeting, which is a common occurrence in many practices. Trying to squeeze everything in to every meeting, this helps divide that out. The meeting types and the timing we're going to talk about today are related to whether or not they're a prospect or a client. Timing has to do with their group service frequency and where they are in the financial planning cycle. Now, before I review our meeting types, let me just give you a little disclaimer. If your practice is using the seasonal approach, our meeting types won't match up directly with yours. However, the concepts, the repeatability, and the benefits will still apply, and we encourage you to stick with us and even reach out after the class if need be to see how we can assist you in applying the same timing and techniques to your meeting types. I'm going to talk about 8 meeting types in particular today. The first 3 have to do with prospects becoming new clients. These are borrowed from the old PMM model: the initial meeting, the engagement meeting, and the implementation meeting. And then those for existing clients, depending on how often the client is seen. You wouldn't use all of these types with every client, but these are the ones that we recommend overall. Annual, investment review and rebalancing, which you may see abbreviated as IRR. Goal tracking, we also tend to abbreviate that one GT. Midpoint review, and tax planning. Many advisors will use mainly the investment review and rebalancing meeting and the goal tracking meetings. This is because most clients are generally on a semi-annual group service frequency. The concept is that few clients are seen more than that. Only your highest value, highest needs clients would be seen more than semi-annually, and there are fewer that are seen less, which of course would be annually. So let's talk about what each of these meeting types looks like. The initial meeting is that two-way interview that allows you to determine if the advisor and the client are going to be a good fit for one another. They're getting to know each other, gaining an understanding of what the client is looking for, introducing themselves and Ameriprise, explaining their unique approach to planning, making sure they have a clear understanding of what the needs of the client are going to be and if they're going to fit well with one another, to determine if that's going to be a relationship that's going to make sense to move forward with. The second meeting type for prospects becoming new clients is engagement. This is where we're really gaining commitment from both sides to proceed. So that first interview, if you will, went well, and we've decided to move forward together. So this is the point where things begin to take shape and build momentum for the client relationship with the advisor. There's typically a review of existing investments. If the client if the advisor likes to use the Naviplan quick financial assessment, this would be a good meeting to do that in. This is where they're obtaining commitment from the prospect in the form of signed agreements or applications, preferably a signed financial planning agreement. If they are going to engage in planning, this is the appropriate meeting to collect the first fee and gather the in-depth data for the plan, and to begin really introducing what's going to be involved in that planning process. This is also the meeting that draws the line in the sand, if you will, for establishing the ongoing group service frequency. The advisor really should have enough information at this point to know how complex the client needs are going to be and how often in the ongoing service of year 2 and beyond they're going to need to see the client. That is semi-annually, trimester, quarterly, or just annually. The last meeting type for prospects becoming new clients is the implementation meeting. This is where we're really beginning to take action for the client and ideally delivering their first plan. This is the meeting that we gain commitment for implementing the recommendations that are contained inside that plan and signing any remaining investment implementation paperwork. Many advisors like to ask for feedback at this point on how things are going and what the client is going to need and how their approach may need to differ. These three meeting types for prospects becoming clients are sometimes combined into 2 meetings in some combination that works for the advisor and the client, but the objectives remain the same. For existing and ongoing clients, let's look at the meeting types we'd use for them. The first is annual. Annual here refers to both the meeting type and how often you see the client. Clients who are seen more than once a year would not experience this meeting type. Of course, client-requested agenda items come first on all client meetings. We want to make sure anything that they need is addressed. We should be annually documenting their overall risk tolerance and updating their client profile and suitability. The advisor would review current portfolio and recommendations, evaluating their progress toward goals that have been identified, not by any means to the same depth than an advisor would cover goals through the planning process. This is a much higher level discussion. If there are tax planning issues that need to be addressed, again, this is a lighter touch on those subjects, but it should be done at least annually to make sure those needs are being met. Protection planning, that is insurance coverage, estate planning, those kinds of conversations, and beneficiary review should at least be touched on annually. And reviewing that group service frequency to make sure that annual is still correct is important. The investment review and rebalancing, or IRR, is an investment-focused meeting with light touches on other areas and an emphasis on the housekeeping items that can often be overlooked in meetings covering a larger variety of topics. Client requested agenda items. You're going to see that in all these meeting types. An annual review of the risk tolerance. If the client is being seen more than once a year, this is the meeting that we want to make sure we're documenting that at least on the annual basis. An update of client profile and suitability where needed. A review of the current portfolio and recommendations, including cash and liabilities and investments. If there are rebalancing acts that need to take place, this is the meeting where the majority of that would happen. Contributions and distributions, gathering updated data for financial planning clients. We often recommend that this occurs in this meeting. Managed account reviews and deliverables. If your practice is still doing SPS deliverables, this is the meeting to make sure that gets taken care of in. If you're not, then the annual review form, or if there are other managed accounts like active portfolio or separately managed accounts, this is also the meeting you want to take care of that review form as a result of this meeting. And for those clients that are being seen more than once a year, this is also the meeting where we would review the group service frequency to make sure that it's still appropriate to the client and the advisor's needs. The goal tracking meeting is the other side of that semi-annual coin for clients, dividing out some of the content that's normally covered in one very large, cumbersome meeting. This side of that coin focuses more on the financial plan and the goals. Client requested agenda items are included. Delivering the financial plan for planning clients, that occurs in this meeting. A lighter investment portfolio review and any necessary rebalancing. We don't want you to ignore that. We just want that to be less of a focus in this meeting than it is in the IRR. If there are any remaining managed account reviews, and this is the second meeting of the year, they're not going to be seen again, we can catch that in this meeting. Tax planning conversations should occur here. That follows right along with the topics in the financial planning conversation, as well as gains and losses and the protection planning and beneficiary review conversations. There should be an evaluation of goals and the progress being made toward those. And we never want to be afraid to ask for referrals. You'll see that at the bottom of all these meeting types. So this goal tracking meeting is really a goal-focused meeting covering a lot of items that go hand in hand with plan delivery. Or for those that are not planning clients, we're touching on those things that we should be talking about at least annually anyway. These two meeting types, the midpoint review and the tax planning meeting, are interchangeable with respect to timing in the year, depending on where the advisor likes to cover the tax planning conversation. We find that advisors are often in two camps. They either prefer to talk about tax planning in the second half of the year as the year end approaches, or they're adamant about wanting to talk about it in the first part of the year before tax day. Whichever camp your advisor falls into, that will help determine which order the midpoint review and the tax planning meetings occur in. If clients are being seen on a trimester, that is 3 times a year, or quarterly, then we add this meeting type called the midpoint review. Of course, client requested agenda items are included. There is an investment portfolio review, lighter again than the IRR, but capturing any rebalancing that might need to be done. A light evaluation of the progress toward goals and updating any necessary profile and suitability updates that might need to occur. The tax planning meeting contains the exact same agenda items, but adds a couple. And this is where more tax planning conversation comes into place. If a client's being seen quarterly, tax planning may not be as much of a focus in the goal tracking meeting and may be emphasized more in the tax planning depending on their timing. So here we've added the tax planning and review of gains and losses to the tax planning conversation. So as a part of the collaborative portion of this class, I'm going to get into a little bit of group participation. I want to ask you a question here and have you raise your hand if you're not using all of the focus meeting types. So use that raise your hand feature. If you know you're not using all of these, there's something missing from your meeting types or you're using different ones. Let me know by a raise of hands now. Okay. There's a couple of you. I'll give you just another moment. Is there anybody else? I'm pleased to see so many are using our meeting types. I genuinely expected there to be more confessing through raised hands that there's not a complete use of these meeting types. So let me ask the two of you who raised your hand. I'd like to call on you and just ask what you're not using. So Ellen, I saw your hand was up. I'm going to unmute you for a moment. Can you speak to what's not being used in your practice?
I just misunderstood the question. That's all. They are, because you guys do the case prep for them, so they are using the meeting types.
Oh, no problem.
So I apologize.
Oh, no worries. There's someone else I can pick on. Don't worry. Heidi.
I knew it.
Can you share with me what's not being used in Ryan's practice?
We're not using them on a regular basis. And I think that that's something that we've discussed before, that we need to focus on getting it the right, appropriate meeting set up for the planning. But we're working on it. But it's not being done on a regular basis. And I think that's more just part of it is retraining my advisor to have a different focus for different types of meetings.
Mm-hmm. So when you submit case prep, how do you submit them then? If you're not using the meeting types in the same order and fashion that I've described here, how does that work?
We are.
You do use the outsourcing service, right?
Correct, we do. So in that sense, yes, we're submitting them that way, but that doesn't mean that that's how the meeting goes after we get it back.
Ah.
Yes.
So that's good clarification.
Yeah, and that's on our side. It's not on KMG's side. I mean, it's just we need to get restructured on how we do our, how we hold the meetings.
All right. Well, that's something that I can help you with.
I know you can.
So I will carry that into my follow-up.
Okay, thank you.
Are there meeting types, though, Heidi, that you're not submitting? What are the ones that you're using?
I submit the tax planning, and KMG is great about prepping it. I don't really think that we utilize that in the manner that we should, and we're not doing it on our own side when we're doing our own meetings.
So you use the IRR and the goal tracking?
Yes, we do the midpoint review. We do the service. The IRR we do with a lot of the clients that we bring new to KMG prepping their cases for us. That's like right off the bat, because in that way they kind of pick up all the other little things that we might not.
All right. Do you use the annual meeting type as well?
Yes, that's actually, especially now that we started with our email review summaries, doing that once a year with the clients. I feel that we're probably going to be utilizing that a little bit more as we go forward, trying to have our good contact with clients. Yes.
Very good. Well, I had a couple of poll questions, but by show of hands and by answering my questions here with me, Heidi, you've already covered those. So thank you for your answers. I'm going to remute you here and move on unless there's anything else you'd like to add.
No, we're good.
All right. All right. I just want to remind everybody at this point as I continue to move on in chat, if there's something that you think of or you'd like to add, you can still use that question field to express your thoughts, and we'll be sure to get to you. So based on group service frequency, let's talk about timing. Annual clients are going to be seen annually. Excuse me, which meeting types go with how often they're being seen. Annual clients, that is the ones that are going to be seen once a year, will use the annual meeting type only, as I mentioned before. Semi-annual clients will use the investment review and rebalancing and the goal tracking meeting. Clients who are seen on the trimester, which is quite unusual, and I will say is not one of our recommended best practices, but we do know how to work well with that. If it's a way to step down from seeing clients more often, we can help you structure that as well. Trimester clients use investment review and rebalancing, goal tracking, and midpoint review. And finally, for clients seen 4 times a year, they use all 4 of those meeting types: investment review and rebalancing, goal tracking, midpoint review, and tax planning. There are a number of benefits to structuring meetings in this way over some of the other methods used by advisors. It really does help the client understand the difference between the managed account fees and the financial planning fees by focusing on the content of each of those in the focused meeting type appropriate to it. It helps your team know what subjects will be covered, making prep more structured and repeatable, and consequently the follow-up a bit more predictable. And it also ensures that you never miss any of the housekeeping items like risk assessments, profile updates, and the like, as the meeting types, if you follow them, will cover all of those annual requirements. So from a timing perspective, non-planning clients can either be aligned with when they became a client or where they fit best in the calendar. There's no specific timing based on group service frequency associated with those meeting types. In contrast, planning clients, we use that engagement meeting or the time when they actually signed their planning agreement to set the date for their investment review and rebalancing meeting. That would align that with the in-force month of the plan. And then the goal tracking meeting would be 6 months later. And if they're a planning client with more complexity, they would have those midpoint review and tax planning meetings on the 3-month mark in between based on the advisor's preferences. So let me show you an example of the timing for, say, a planning client who's seen semi-annually. I've taken these screenshots from a resource that's in Turnkey Solutions that will be included on the follow-up that comes out to you after this class, so you'll be able to go look at the whole thing. I've just captured pieces of it for the sake of understanding here. Year 1 and year 2 are different for clients. I'm sure you all know that. You're all very aware of how year 1 can be a very busy year, and year 2 tends to settle down, and year 3 settles in even more into more of a routine. But from a standardizing the process point of view, here's what year 1 might look like for a semi-annual client. You'd have that initial meeting. That's the first appointment with the prospect where you're getting to know one another. 2 weeks or so later, you might have that engagement meeting. That's when we're really getting traction and we've decided to work together. Hopefully we're signing a planning agreement or at least getting started with new accounts and moving forward in this meeting. That's where we're drawing the line for group service frequency with the planning clients. That would be the in-force month as well if we sign the planning agreement in that meeting. Then 4 to 6 weeks after that engagement meeting, we would hold the implementation meeting. That timing is important because you need time to get that first plan put together, and there may be additional data that needs gathered, and we need to be able to work through the planning process appropriately to get that first plan delivered quickly, but have enough time to do so. That would be that implementation meeting, plan delivery. And then 6 months from the engagement meeting, so back where we drew the line in the sand, would be their first goal tracking meeting. And for those of you that are less familiar with the meeting types, you might be saying to yourself, she just said we deliver the plan in the goal tracking meeting. So if we've already done that, why would we have a goal tracking meeting in the first year? That would be a good question. In the first year, you do still hold that goal tracking meeting, and it really tends to become a further implementation meeting. We're checking to see how are we doing with that first plan. What else do we need to work on? Do we have everything in the right spot? Are we gaining the momentum we need to help them reach their goals? So in year 2, here's our simplified year 2. You can see that the spacing is a little weird in this representation. That's because in the resource I've captured, year 1 and year 2 are set to line up so that you can see that the engagement meeting in year 1 aligns with the investment review and rebalancing meeting in year 2, allowing the 6-month cycle to show clearly. So as you see here, that investment review and rebalancing meeting is the month of the engagement meeting in year 1, or the in-force month of the planning agreement. And then 6 months later would be that goal tracking meeting where they would get their second plan. So let's look at one that's a little more complex. Those who are seen more often, such as quarterly, have a very busy first year of meetings. Each will have a number of meetings that's relative to the service that they need and the preferences of your practice. Please note that the midpoint review and tax planning meetings can be placed interchangeably. I know I've mentioned that, but I want to make sure that you're clear on that definitely being a preference point based on where the advisor likes to speak to the tax planning topic. Keep in mind, once the meeting types have been set, they shouldn't alter in the order that they occur once they've been initially decided, unless there's a change in where the planning agreement is or the client requests a change. So in year 1, you'll have that initial meeting, that first getting to know you meeting. A couple weeks later, the engagement meeting. 4 to 6 weeks after that is that implementation meeting, where they're getting their first plan. If they're quarterly, we sure hope they're planning clients. And then 3 months from that engagement meeting, where we drew our line in the sand, would be their first midpoint review or tax planning meeting, depending on the time of year. 3 months after that, at the 6-month mark, would be the goal tracking meeting, where we could be continuing to implement and evaluating the progress toward goals. And 3 months after that, or 9 months from the engagement meeting, would be the opposite meeting. Whatever wasn't held at the 3-month mark would be held at the 9-month mark, either the midpoint review or tax planning. Then in year 2, things settle down a bit for these quarterly clients. Again, you can see that the spacing looks a little bit different, but in the resource that you'll see, they line up with the corresponding meeting from year 1. So in year 2, we just have the 4 meeting types. The investment review and rebalancing lines up with that month of the engagement meeting or the in-force month, and the remaining meetings line up with their corresponding meeting type in year 1. So ideally, you can set these meeting types and forget them. When group service frequency is assigned for a client in Contact Manager, we recommend that you make note of the meeting types in the group remarks section above where the group service frequency is selected. I've got a screenshot here that shares with you a recommended format. I took this directly from one of the clients that we work with who's done a real good job as they set group service frequencies of marking this. This really enables ease in pre-scheduling without having to research the last meeting type that occurred to determine the next. So as you're moving forward and scheduling forward, hopefully you're pre-scheduling your next meetings as clients are coming in and you're prepping. This gives you an easy place to go look and see what should that meeting type look like, what should it be the next time around. So I've gotten through our material pretty quick. I want to open it up for questions. I can unmute your line or raise your hand or whatever it is that you need so I can let you speak if you'd like, or type one in if you're not comfortable speaking. I'll leave the line open here for a couple minutes for questions. And if you don't have any, you may reach out to me, or you don't want to do it in front of everybody, feel free to reach out to me directly after. I'll be available for the rest of this hour here at my phone line, and let me give you my direct line. So if you want to reach out to me, that's 248-218-1274. Or you can feel free to shoot me an email at brandy.a.kelly, K-E-L-L-E-Y, @ampf.com. I'd be happy to answer your questions or direct you to the right resource if there's something more I can help you with. Do we have a question over there?